Welcome back to Football Daily for today's Top 10, where we take a look at Premier League stars past and present that didn't impress as much as they should have on their travels. 10. Michael Owen. At one point, Michael Owen was one of football's most feared strikers. He scored in his debut for Liverpool in May 1997, and only a year later, at just 18 years old, he won the Premier League Golden Boot. That summer, he'd score one of the most memorable goals in English football history against Argentina in the World Cup, would win the Ballon d'Or in 2001, and reach a century of league goals by the time he was 23. In 2004, he'd swapped Merseyside for Madrid, signing for Real for a bargain £8 million in the Galacticos era, but it didn't go to plan. Owen was often confined to the bench and received criticism for his inconsistent form, taking 7 games to open his Los Blancos account, ending the season with just 16 goals in all competitions, the second lowest total in his career until then. Following Real signing Robinho and Julio Baptista, Owen's chances became even more limited, and Newcastle United saved him from his Iberian nightmare in 2005, although injuries limited him to barely a century of appearances over the next 8 years, where he also featured for Manchester United and Stoke City before hanging up his boots. 9. Allan Saint-Maximin. Now, it might be a bit harsh to say that Allan Saint-Maximin was a flop in his homeland, but there's no argument that he has flourished since his move to Newcastle United. The 25-year-old is regarded as the most frustrating French prospect since Hatem Ben Arfa, and by the time the Gucci headband-wearing winger made his switch to Tyneside, had already represented 5 different clubs. ASM looked like he'd found his home in Nice, with 25 goal contributions in 74 matches. But according to former boss Patrick Vieira, his attitude stank. He faked being ill to get out of training, was pictured in a club following a loss, and never quite gave it his all on the training ground. Nice were happy to get rid, but at Newcastle, Saint-Maximin has developed into one of the league's most exciting players, and an attacker no defender wants to face, already appearing more and scoring more for the Magpies than he has for any other club. 8. Christian Eriksen. One of the stories of the season has been Christian Eriksen's return to the Premier League with Brentford. It's been a long road to recovery for the Danish international, and whilst his departure from Inter Milan was neither his nor their fault, there was a possibility that the 30-year-old could be on his way out of the San Siro as early as January 2021. That was just a year after he left Spurs, who ultimately decided to cash in on the playmaker with his contract 6 months from expiration, despite being an important part of the side alongside the likes of Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. However, joining the Nerazzurri mid-season posed its own issues, with Eriksen appearing more off the bench than in the starting lineup. He reportedly struggled with the language barrier and would remain a rotation option under Antonio Conte, ultimately being put on the transfer list during the Scudetto winning campaign. Of course, the events of Euro 2020 gave Inter no choice but to release him. With a fresh start in West London, Eriksen is slowly getting back to his best. It's just great to see him thriving in the Premier League once more. 7. Dejan Kulusevski. He may have only arrived in January, but Dejan Kulusevski is very quickly making his case to be regarded as one of the Premier League's most potent attackers. With 3 goals and 6 assists already, the 21-year-old is third for both stats, behind the 2 usual suspects of Kane and Son, who he's already developed a strong connection on the pitch with. That's a far cry from his 18 months at Juventus. After impressing on loan at Parma in the first half of the 2019-20 season, the Bianconeri paid Atalanta €35 million to make him theirs. Whilst he featured in the majority of Juve's matches in 2021, he would notch just 7 goal involvements, and when Max Allegri was appointed, his performances continued to underwhelm. With just 5 starts and less than 800 total minutes, the Swedish international was deemed surplus to requirements, with Spurs making him theirs for the remainder of the campaign. And after the start he's had in the Premier League, it seems almost inevitable that the club will pay the £25 million to make the move permanent. 6. Raul Jimenez. It took a long time for Raul Jimenez to find his level in Europe. The Mexican, who came through the academy of Liga MX side America, made his debut voyage across the Atlantic in 2014, off the back of 2 double-digit campaigns. It was Atletico Madrid that signed the 23-year-old, but after a campaign in which he netted just once in 21 matches, Atleti shipped him off to Benfica. And whilst he spent 3 years in the Portuguese capital, he averaged just 6 league goals per campaign, and only netted 31 goals across 120 matches in all competitions. However, his luck would change when agent Jorge Mendes masterminded a move to a newly promoted Premier League side, Wolves. The 30-year-old would score 44 goals in all competitions in his first 2 seasons at the Molineux, and very quickly became the club's record Premier League goalscorer. A severe head injury may have ruled him out for 9 months, but Jimenez has looked as hungry as ever since his return earlier this season. He is still proving to be a nightmare for the division's defences, as he continues to be one of the first names on the team sheet under Bruno Lage. 5. Aaron Ramsey. Arsenal not handing a new contract to Aaron Ramsey was probably justified. After all, the Welshman was asking for a deal in excess of £250,000 a week at the Emirates, but had consistently struggled with injury in his decade with the Gunners. However, when he was on the pitch, he was always one of the star performers. Between 2013 and his departure in 2019, Ramsey made 72 Premier League goal contributions in total, at a rate of 135 minutes. That's a goal or an assist for every game and a half of football he played. However, when push came to shove, Arsenal were nowhere near matching Juventus' offer of $400k a week, and Ramsey moved to Turin on a free. But it's not gone to plan in Italy. 31-year-old Ramsey missed 34 games due to injury in his time with Juve, failing to nail down a regular starting spot with just 25 starts in Serie A in his 2.5 years there. His astronomical wages made it hard for the Bianconeri to shift him, but he is now on loan at Rangers in Scotland, and with a year left on his deal, it's hard to see him pulling on the famous black and white shirt again. 4. João Cancelo. The third player in our list to have not hit the heights expected of them at Juventus, João Cancelo has developed into a bona fide Premier League superstar. Arguably one of the Premier League's top right-backs, the Portuguese international has actually made the left-back spot his own under Pep Guardiola at Man City. So it begs the question, why did Juve ever sell him? A defensive liability whilst with Valencia, Cancelo cost the club €40 million in 2018, after impressing in a loan move with Inter Milan the prior campaign. Whilst he impressed to begin with, injuries and defensive mistakes started to slip into his game. So when summer rolled around, the old lady were in need of a bit of cash. There weren't really any complaints when the 27-year-old's name was raised for a potential sale. Manchester City swooped in with a deal totaling €60 million, including Danilo, and the rest, as they say, is history. Cancelo has developed into one of world football's best fullbacks, and Juventus are still relying on the inconsistent Danilo at right back. They're no doubt looking back and regretting the sale, if only they had kept faith. 3. Felipe Coutinho. Whilst he was at Liverpool, Felipe Coutinho was one of football's most feared attacking midfielders. Before and after his time at Anfield, he was not regarded in the same category. In 3 years at Inter Milan, between 2010 and 2013, the Brazilian made just 47 appearances across all competitions, and struggled to find regular game time. However, Liverpool made a move for him in January 2013, and it was in the Premier League he became a world beater. His last 18 months in England saw him contribute 33 goals, earning himself that ridiculous £120 million move to Barcelona. Unfortunately, he failed to reach the same heights, despite an impressive opening 6 months. With his 32 goals and assists between January 2018 and summer 2019, not enough to appease the Barca faithful. The 29-year-old was then sent on loan to Bayern, where he played well but not enough for the Bavarians to exercise the staggering €120 million option to buy, and upon his return, never quite made it as a regular at the Camp Nou. Coutinho has though impressed on his Premier League return with Aston Villa, but it's probably not where he thought his career was headed when he left Liverpool in 2018. 2. Ashley Cole. There aren't many more decorated players in English football than Ashley Cole. Widely considered the best left-back in Premier League history, he won 2 league titles and 3 FA Cups whilst with Arsenal, and when he controversially switched to Chelsea, would add 1 more Premier League, 4 more FA Cups, a League Cup, a Europa League and a Champions League crown to his collection. But when his time in the Premier League was up after Chelsea released him in 2014, he probably looks back on regret with his next career move. Then 33 years old, Cole plumped for Roma, but a year later was already on his way out of the Giallorossi. After just 16 appearances in all competitions, he was left out of the squad for the 2015-16 season, and ultimately made the decision to cancel his 2-year deal at the club and headed to MLS's LA Galaxy, where he was slightly more successful. Perhaps his time at Roma is best summed up by that squad photo that saw Cole stood off to the side of the rest of his teammates. It's fair to say he never quite felt at home in the Eternal City. 1. Eden Hazard. Absolutely nothing has gone right for Eden Hazard since he left Chelsea for Real Madrid in a €100 million move in 2018. He topped 200 goal involvements in the 7 seasons he spent at Stamford Bridge, and his drop-off following his move to Spain has been staggering. To date, the 31-year-old has been a Madrista for 151 matches, however has made just 65 appearances for the club and missed out due to injury on 69 occasions. And even when he has been on the pitch, completing 90 minutes just 6 times, Hazard has just 6 goals and 10 assists, coming at a rate of 1 contribution every 207 minutes, some 50% down on his efforts at Chelsea. The switch to the Bernabeu was meant to be a dream move for Hazard, but it has not been so. In fact, it's going so badly that despite having a contract in Spain until 2024, Los Blancos have reportedly been trying to shift the Belgian for 18 months. Thanks to his mega £400,000 a week salary and ropey injury history, there hasn't been any takers. Hazard will likely remain a bench option at Real Madrid, a far cry from his iconic status in the Premier League. So those were our 10 Premier League stars that have flopped abroad. Let us know what you thought of those 10 and if we've missed out any other big names. Get them down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this FD video and want to see more, then click on screen right now, and as always guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.